Hey, what's up? My name is John Bonjour. I'm a comic artist and film enthusiast. I haven't drawn any art because I don't have time with all the comics and other art I'm doing. But I would like to enthuse about some film, kind of. Today we are talking about Wild Robot. The Wild Robot was directed by Chris Sanders and it stars Lupita Nyong'o. I'm fairly sure I got that right, but if the pronunciation is off, I am so sorry. I'm really bad at that. That's a genuine flaw of mine. This is a movie that I saw a trailer for as it was coming out, and I thought, awesome, cool, a movie I don't have to see because it looks kind of bad. And then everybody I know was talking about how just beautiful and incredible and emotional and moving it was. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch it at some point. Then it gets nominated for Best Animated Film, and I'm like, all right, okay, let's go check out The Wild Robot. And I feel like a party pooper when I say that I think this movie is pretty good. I don't think it's phenomenal. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. In a lot of ways, especially visually, it's phenomenal. Like, this is a movie that looks gorgeous. Every shot of this movie is beautiful. It's clearly well designed. It's intentional about the way that it frames shots, the way that it lights shots. There's some stuff with a fire later on where the color is crazy. I mean, just like from a visual animation perspective, it is spectacular. It's a thing to behold. And so for that reason, I'm not mad that it got nominated for Best Animated. Like, I think it probably should have, just on a visual level alone. It's one of those movies that I think wouldn't exist without Spider-Verse, but doesn't copy Spider-Verse. I feel like that Puss in Boots movie, that Ninja Turtles movie, and The Wild Robot are all three different fantastic versions of taking that animation style and making it your own and running with it. So there is that element of the movie that I think is genuinely incredibly well done. Problem is, I also think a lot of the movie is not well done. Story-wise, this is a movie that kind of falls on its face. It's based on a children's book, and I think that that's relatively clear. This kind of feels a lot like Night Swim is a good example, but like a short film extended into a feature film. It's clear that they had to find ways to pad the movie. And I don't think that's an inherently bad thing, like I said, but I do think that this movie doesn't do it particularly well because some of the scenes, it's extremely focused. It knows what it's trying to do, trying to develop this story about motherhood and loving the people around you and embracing community, all good stories to tell. The problem is it also tries to tell the exact story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in goose form. It tries to discuss the idea of whether or not your own memories and ideas are important or yours or whether you own them. It talks about corporations, except it's not clear on whether or not it thinks that's a bad thing. At some point we meet humans, kind of, and their use of robots is evil and good, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it's just a confused movie. And that's frustrating to me because I think that if you chopped out some of this, if you adjusted a couple of things, this movie would work really well. It's just trying to do too much at one time, and it's trying to say too much, and sometimes those things kind of conflict with each other. Especially when the movie tries to make the case that this community of animals all needs to come together to survive and survive the winter. And that's a beautiful moment. It's a really touching portion of the film, except it then reminds you that some of these animals are predators and some of these animals need to eat others of these animals to survive. And it's this thing a lot like Elemental, where your allegory starts to make less sense the more and more you think about it. And I get frustrated by these things because I don't think this needed to be that. In either direction, you could have the story where these animals need to all come together to survive, and that's beautiful, but you can't start it showing how brutal and cruel this world is, because that's survival, that's part of it. It's a great portion of the movie. The first 10 or so minutes are just this robot doing a Charlie Chaplin through the forest, and it's hilarious and kind of scary and sad, and it all works really effectively. Very communicative, it's all beautiful. The problem is, you can't have predators running around eating prey and deal with that as a topic and then suggest that the predators should just stop doing that. You can't have both, and this is a movie that tries to have both. It's frustratingly disjointed, and I know it's a children's movie, but there's a lot of non-disjointed children's movies. I don't think that's a fair response to criticism to say, well, it's made for kids. Great, kids are smart, and I think kids deserve things that are smart for them, and I don't think this is one of them. This is one that tries to be in a lot of ways, and if it had focused on one or two of those ways, I think it really could have been. This could have been one of the best animated movies we've gotten. Visually, it already is. But I think it's a shame how much of this movie is trying to extend to different stories, different thoughts, different ideas, try to capture all of these different themes, and it just sort of ends up being less than the sum of its parts in a lot of ways for me. So there's my thoughts. I liked Wild Robot. I don't think it was phenomenal. I don't know. It's like I wanted to think it was great because everybody else thinks it's great, but I just kind of don't, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do. I wish this was a more focused, stronger story and less disjointed and disconnected. But what did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, children's books, children's movies, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next, or do none of that because I am not your dad.